In spring 2014, the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge took their baby son, Prince George, on a tour of Australia and New Zealand. 3 decades earlier, the Prince and Princess of Wales had made a similar trip with their baby William. But later, their marriage collapsed, shaking the monarchy to its foundations. Now, a new royal family is giving the monarchy a solid future, possibly into the next century. William, Kate and George began their tour in New Zealand. 8-month-old George was dubbed the Prince of Cuteness. With his amusing behaviour, he quickly became the star of the royal show. Top of the tour's agenda was a playdate for George with other babies at Government House in Wellington.
People were very excited about his first official engagement. They took him to a playgroup to play with other children. And that was really nice because it was not just George on his own pottering around. It was actually, you're getting to see him interact with other babies the same age. And we got to see what George was like. We got to see his personality. He was described, I think, as a bit intrepid and quite feisty. He was quite a determined little baby. He was really going for the toys that he wanted. He's had a lot of attention and he has a super nanny, and you could tell that he had perhaps had a lot of help with his development. He was almost walking where other babies were just crawling. And I also think something that's quite funny about George as well was that his little grumpy expressions kind of became a theme of the tour as well. I mean, he certainly wasn't up for smiling all the time. He'd be carried off a plane and he'd just kind of look like this.
Looking at baby William in 1982, the family resemblance is clear. William's parents, Charles and Diana, tried to amuse him for the first photo call since birth, but he kept a solemn expression throughout. One of the highlights of William and Kate's visit to Australia was a trip with George to Sydney's Taronga Zoo, where he was taken to an enclosure named in his honour and introduced to a small furry animal called a bilby. The zoo trip showed William, Kate and George as a family, royal but normal in every other way. George has added a touch of informality amid the protocol of royal life, which is fast becoming the Cambridge family's trademark. Kate has coped with the demands of motherhood while supporting Prince William on his official duties. Since her marriage in 2011, Kate has blended seamlessly into royal life. She's embraced her new role with enthusiasm and taken to it as if to the manner born. William was trained from birth, but the pressures of royal duty are tougher for a girl from a middle-class background. Whether playing cricket in Christchurch wearing a tight red dress, or taking a turn as a DJ at a youth music centre in Adelaide, or riding the rapids on a jet boat on the Shotover River near Queenstown, or placing flowers at a war memorial in Hamilton, Kate has shown an instinctive flair for her role as Duchess of Cambridge. As a royal, she must never look tired or bored. She must give everyone she meets a special memory that lasts a lifetime.
I think Kate has a certain natural charm. There are some things that you can't manufacture, and I definitely think that she has a certain star quality about her. She's very high energy. She's very interested in people. I think one of the things that she does when she talks to people, and I've met her before and she's done it with me, she turns her whole body towards you, and she looks at you, and for the few moments that you're talking to her, you are absolutely the focus of her attention. And I think that she does make people feel very special for that reason.
Kate chose the fashion house of the late Alexander McQueen to create her wedding dress. A blend of modern and traditional, it was the perfect gown for a 21st century royal bride.
There was a real celebration, particularly in the fashion industry, that Kate had chosen McQueen to design her dress, not because McQueen is British, not just because it's one of the most famous labels in the country, but it was an amazing tribute, and a very personal tribute, I think, from the Duchess to Alexander McQueen, who of course is no longer with us. Now, the fashion house has been continued by his number 2, Sarah Burton. She is the woman who designed Kate's wedding dress, and she's the woman who Kate works very closely with on a weekly basis, Kate will commission items to be made specially for her. She might take pieces from one of Sarah Burton's new collections and have it adapted so that it's more suitable to her. McQueen dresses and skirts can be very short. The Duchess likes to wear things that fall just below or at knee level. So Sarah and Kate work very closely on the tailoring, on having things adapted for the Duchess's line of work. But if you asked me which designer Kate is most affiliated with, I would absolutely say McQueen, and I think that's fantastic for British fashion. She's also, let's not forget, a big fan of the High Street. We know Kate, particularly in the tabloids, as the Duchess of the High Street.
Sarah Burton's beautifully adapted designs for the McQueen label are among the most successful and popular of Kate's outfits. Clothes by young designers sell out as soon as Kate wears them. With thrift in mind, Kate sometimes recycles clothes, like this blue Stella McCartney dress and this lemon broderie anglaise dress. The late Catherine Walker was one of Diana's most influential designers. Her fashion house continued after her death in 2010 and is now favoured by Kate.
Well, Catherine Walker is a really interesting choice for the Duchess. Firstly, because Catherine Walker is synonymous with Diana. She and Diana would work very closely on designing, a little in the same way that Sarah Burton and Kate do today. But for Kate to go to Catherine Walker for some really important dresses, I think is probably Kate's way of paying tribute to Diana. So when we saw Kate coming down the steps of the plane as they landed in Wellington, not only was she in a fabulously vibrant red against this dreary, watery, wet sky, she sort of stood out with her pillbox hat, her dress coat. She looked fantastic. But what was so great was that she was wearing Catherine Walker. And I think that was really her way of paying homage to the mother-in-law that she never met.
The Catherine Walker outfit was a powerful reminder of the past when Diana, not Kate, was the most photographed woman on the planet. Diana was stunningly beautiful and wore fabulous gowns like this beaded outfit by Catherine Walker. Coming from an aristocratic family, she combined the allure of a superstar with the aura of royalty. One day, Kate will be the next Princess of Wales. Kate arrived in Australia wearing a yellow and white dress by Roxanda Ilinčić. Occasional royal visits are needed in Australia to push back the tide of republicanism. In 1983, 7 months old, Prince William arrived in Australia carried by his nanny Barbara Barnes. His parents were making a 6-week tour of Australia and New Zealand. It was a life-changing experience for Diana, still only 21. Kate was 32. Unlike Diana, she was happy in her role and confident of her husband's support. William and Kate are young, full of life, and interact with everybody they meet. They are the new generation of royalty, the modern face of a monarchy thousands of miles away. As they began their Australian tour, the Sydney Morning Herald carried the headline, "Royals arrive, Republic recedes." With their visit, Australian republicanism slumped to its lowest level in over 3 decades.
William and Kate are extremely popular in Australia. Ever since they've got married, people have been desperate for them to make a visit there. And I think what's really interesting is that Australia and New Zealand both have incredibly strong Republican movements. A lot of people don't want the British monarchy as head of state. But what we were seeing when we were visiting the countries was that people were really separating that issue from the fact that they just love William, Kate and George as celebrities, and they were so excited to have them in the country.
Australia's opposition Labour Party leader Bill Shorten wants an Australian head of state. Questioned by the reporters, he was cautious about the future of the monarchy.
We will continue the relationship, not so much of mother country, but continuous oldest friend.
But will there be a monarchy in 50 years' time?
Oh, I can't even pick the winner on race 5 on Saturday, so I won't start throwing my crystal ball about that debate.
On the second day of their Australian tour, William and Kate paid a sympathetic visit to the fire-damaged town of Winmalee in the Blue Mountains near Sydney. 6 months earlier, it was ravaged by bushfires. Almost 200 homes were destroyed. William and Kate talked to some of the people who were made homeless by the fires.
For them to come out all this way to say hello, especially to my children and to us, and say, I'm sorry this happened to you. It means an awful lot. So
they were lovely and warm. I got a kiss from Kate, and they're going to come back to my house, have a cup of tea when it's rebuilt.
Kate listened intently to the brave firemen who'd battled the fires for days. Then Kate, a volunteer with the Scout Association back home, was thrilled to hear the local Girl Guides singing for her. The couple took in the spectacular views at Echo Point. They saw the Three Sisters peaks and the hazy blue vistas that give the Blue Mountains their name. The crowds had only come to see the Duke and Duchess and were determined to take a photo of the visit, preferably a selfie with Kate. Her ability to engage with people, especially with children, is increasingly reminiscent of Diana. William had the officials worried for a moment when he stepped close to a precipice to see an abseiling exercise. The couple watched a bird show and then posed with one of Australia's favourite animals, the koala. They visited a children's hospice and talked to the patients and their parents. They were deeply moved by the experience. Kate chose the occasion to make a speech expressing her gratitude to Australia.
If I may, I'd also like to take this opportunity to thank everyone who's welcomed me and George so incredibly warmly on our first visit. To be here as a family has been very special, and we'll always remember it with fond and happy memories.
The influence of Diana's humanitarian causes is evident in William's wife. Kate once said, "I would have loved to have met Diana, and she's obviously an inspirational woman to look up to." Kate's long years of courtship with William before their marriage prepared her to cope with the pressure of unending public scrutiny.
There's such huge interest in the royal family, and in particular William and Kate. And what you get whenever they go to any official visit is just this saturated media coverage. The minute they begin an engagement, the minute they leave, you've got Twitter, you've got live streaming, you've got blanket internet coverage. You contrast that to when Charles and Diana went to Australia and New Zealand, and there was at that time one story a day coming out of the country via the newspapers and the television bulletins, and that was it, and people were being drip-fed the information. Makes it much easier to sustain interest over a long period of time.
On another Australian tour in 1988, Charles and Diana visited a beach near Sydney to see the lifeguards in action. Diana talked to them about their work and presented them with a commemorative plaque. Then she allowed herself to be photographed inadvisedly with the scantily clad young men. Kate was more sure-footed on her visit to Australia.
Well, I was on that beach in Australia. It was burning hot. We were surrounded by these fabulous-looking lifeguards, beach boys, surfer girls, and everyone was in flip-flops. And we were all wondering what the Duchess would be wearing, because she loves her wedged sandals. She's naturally very tall, but she really likes to accentuate her height with wedges. And I remember waiting there. I was reporting for Channel 9 in Australia at the time, and I was discussing with the presenter, what's she going to come out on? Will she be wearing flip-flops? Will she be barefoot? And we were all absolutely stunned when she came out in these towering wedges and navigated the sand in these really towering shoes, and not just walking on the sand. At one point she was starting off a race and she ran down to the water, and it was dubbed the Baywatch moment, and she did it with amazing ease and dexterity, and she didn't go flying on her face, which I think anyone else probably would have done.
In New Zealand, the couple attended the unveiling of a new portrait of the Queen. Kate wore a Jenny Packham bespoke black dress, embroidered in silver with a fern, the national symbol of the country. The portrait showed the Queen wearing her diamond silver fern brooch, a gift from New Zealand, which she loaned to Kate for the tour.
When she arrived in New Zealand, she had the silver fern brooch on, which is obviously the brooch of the emblem of the country of New Zealand. So that's her way, in the same way that the Queen does, of showing respect to the country that she's visiting, paying tribute to the country through her choice of clothes. So I think that's something that's very important for her to do. It's something that the royal family have done for a very long time. And I also think it's really nice that the Queen clearly wanted her to borrow the jewellery, wanted her to wear it. So I think that's a really nice kind of image of history repeating itself.
Shortly before leaving Australia, the couple visited Parliament House in Canberra. Their meeting with the Australian Prime Minister Tony Abbott underlined the serious purpose of the tour. After receiving gifts for George, William made a speech.
Thank you for the warmth and generosity that has been shown to us during our visit. We greatly look forward to coming back, and when we do return, it'll be to marvel again at all that Australia is and will yet become. Thank you.
William didn't mention the monarchy in Australia. He left that to Tony Abbott, who made his own views on the subject clear.
Many decades hence, when a currently unknowable Australian Prime Minister welcomes your son, King George VII, to this building, that will be a sign of the stability and the continuity in the life of our nation.
The highlight of the royal tour was probably the couple's visit to Ayers Rock, now officially named Uluru. Like so many other tourists, they watched the sunset over the iconic Red Rock. Charles and Diana had done the same in 1983 during their first tour of Australia. They also met Indigenous Aborigine people. Over 30 years later, local Aborigines performed their dance Inma for William and Kate. Showing respect for different cultures within the Commonwealth remains an important part of royal tours. The couple were presented with handmade gifts, a shield for William and wooden toys for George. Battling flies and heat, the couple were then taken to see Uluru. The massive sandstone outcrop is a place of Aboriginal myths and legends and has to be treated with respect. The couple were walked part of the way round its perimeter, as walking or climbing on it is frowned upon. William is an heir to nearly 1,000 years of kings and queens. Kate has her blue-collar ancestry, yet she has taken on the mantle of royalty with faultless grace and charm.
I think Kate, in many ways, has breathed new life into the monarchy. It's been a long time since we've had a young, glamorous, almost celebrity within the royal family. And I use that word quite deliberately because I do think the young royals are now as akin to celebrity as they are to members of the royal family. And I think together, William and Kate as a unit, as a brand, and we talk about brand Cambridge, it's probably the most powerful asset that the monarchy has.
That asset was already at work in Canada in 2011, just weeks after the royal wedding. William visited Niagara Falls 20 years earlier with his mother and brother Harry. Back in Canada with his bride Kate, they enjoyed a high-profile but relaxed tour. Kate wore the Queen's maple leaf brooch, representing the national emblem of Canada, which was given to the Queen by her mother. Pleasing the host nation with a variety of events and activities, William and Kate showed they were enthusiastic and adaptable. It was Kate's first tour as Duchess of Cambridge. On Canada Day, July the 1st, she wore red and white, the national colours of the country. 500,000 lined the streets of Ottawa to see the newlyweds, driven by carriage to Parliament Hill, where they watched the Canada Day show. They showed unfailing interest in everything and everyone. They shared a loving moment after a boat race.
They've turned out to be brilliant ambassadors, far better than anyone dared hope. They are the number one draw around the world for us. The Queen has complete confidence in them now, that they can do a brilliant job representing Britain and the monarchy, the modern face of the monarchy. I mean, people love them, and they seem to have adjusted to it and taken to it like ducks to water.
The couple visited Hollywood in 2011 when they attended a dazzling charity dinner. As president of BAFTA, William was keen to introduce new talent to the cream of the movie industry, but all eyes were on Kate. The event was the hottest ticket in town, but none of the celebrities outshone the royal couple.
You brought back to life Clark Gable and Marilyn Monroe. They wouldn't excite Americans this much.
And they make me smile. I love them.
They met Barbara Streisand, Charles's friend, and Tom Hanks and his wife, friends of Diana. America had not seen anything like this since Charles and Diana visited the White House in 1985. In her Victor Edelstein off-the-shoulder gown, she outshone the other guests, as the president later recalled.
Very prominent and well-known people and all, and including some of our performers, theater performers, and Hollywood celebrities. But then she came, and of course she was the new star, and she carried herself very well. I'd had an opportunity at dinner to hear of what she thought about some of, particularly the performing stars that were there. And so the dancing began, but yet she was the center of attention. The rest of the people were pretty much of an audience. So I managed to get word to John Travolta. She had mentioned approvingly during dinner to ask her to dance, to break the ice, because most of our people were a little hesitant about that. And he did, and they danced beautifully together, and it was a kind of high spot that I do remember in that entire evening.
After the failure of Charles and Diana's marriage, the focus fell on their sons, particularly on William as future king. In July 2013, he and Kate presented their new son to the world a day after his birth. When Charles and Diana left the same hospital with baby William in June 1982, they had seemed like the perfect family.
Well, he's got a good pair of lungs on him, that's for sure. He's a big boy, he's quite heavy, but we're still working on a name, so we'll have that as soon as we can. But it's the first time we've seen him really, so having a proper chance to catch up and see it's very emotional.
Yeah, it's very emotional. It's such a special time. I think any parent, will probably sort of know what this feeling feels like. So.
It's got her looks, thankfully.
No, I'm not sure about that.
Thanks a lot, thank you.
Their relaxed style in front of the cameras showed a very solid and balanced relationship.
I think Kate is a great companion for William. You only have to watch them and you'll see a chemistry between them. There is a spark. There's a glance that, because there are so many captures, is inevitably captured on camera, but it's so natural. There's nothing forced about it. There are a couple who are genuinely and deeply in love and very happy together.
William began St Andrews University at 19. He was one of the world's most eligible bachelors. Inevitably, his choice of future bride became a source of media speculation. Fellow student Kate Middleton was just one among many girls linked with him. Every one of the student prince's circle of well-connected female admirers was surveyed for her princess potential. The press were then unaware that William and Kate had a secret romance. The media guessing game continued for years. Kate's main rival was William's childhood friend, Jekka Craig. The palace even denied reports of a romance. Before dating Kate, William had a brief fling with another St Andrews student, Carly Massey Birch. William had retained many friends who shared his teenage years. He has known the Van Cutsum family all his life They're among the group of loyal friends with whom he feels most at ease. These are known as the Circle of Trust. One friend who let him down badly is Tara Palmer-Tompkinson. The sister and daughter of some of Charles's closest friends and skiing companions, Tara was expected to keep royal secrets. But she let her love of the media and publicity lead her into unwise decisions. She also developed a cocaine addiction, which was cured after a spell in an American clinic. She became a socialite, presenter, columnist, model, and charity patron. She took part in reality television shows. Charles enjoyed her lively company and included her in his skiing holidays. He and William were rewarded with embarrassing headlines. Cured from her drug addiction, Tara was given a second chance and was guest at the royal wedding, but William's trust in her was misplaced. During the newspaper hacking trials, Tara's role in supplying stories to the news of the world was revealed in court.
The Royal Circle of Trust is very unique. It's very special. It is the friends and family most trusted by the royal family, and there's only really one rule, and it's very simple. You don't talk, and you don't breach that confidence. And unfortunately, Tara Palmer-Tompkinson did breach the royals' confidence in probably what they consider as the most terrible way, and that was communicating with a tabloid newspaper.
William and Harry enjoy the challenge of competitive games, as well as friendly and exclusive bicycle polo matches, and have many friends in common. Their playmates grew into teenage pals, part of a very exclusive circle of trust. A select few would have fun with the young princes in a cellar nicknamed Club H at Charles's Gloucestershire home, Highgrove. And a few were lucky enough to be taken on luxurious holidays. In 1999, William and Harry took a group of pals nicknamed the Glossy Posse on a cruise with their father. One was Amelia de Lange, who happened to know both William and a certain Kate Middleton. It was no surprise when Amelia was among Prince George's godparents.
Amelia de Lange is one of William's oldest friends, which really started because they both lived in Gloucestershire. Amelia was at Marlborough School, and at school her very best friend was none other than Kate Middleton, who at that time was a fresh-faced young 17-year-old teenager. And through her connection with Amelia, she actually met Prince William when they were both at school. So this meeting at St Andrews, actually they'd met before.
In July 1981, one of the four Van Cutsem brothers, Edward, was a page boy at Charles and Diana's wedding. William, born the following year, grew up close to Edward. It was William Van Cutsem, the youngest brother, who became one of Prince George's 7 godparents.
William Van Cutsem is one of 4 Van Cutsem children who William and Harry grew up with. As little boys, they would spend a lot of time with the Van Cutsem family. I think they're probably the closest family to the Waleses out of all of their family friends.
The inclusion of Julia Samuel, a close friend of Diana, is a link to the late princess. William is now the royal patron of Julia's charity, Child Bereavement UK.
The choice of Julia Samuel was quite prescient because it was William's way of, I think, recognising Diana. Julia and Diana were very close friends. Julia runs a charity that Diana was heavily involved with, and from that charitable connection grew a lifelong friendship and a friendship that William inherited. And so it was his way of making sure that his mother was recognised.
Earl Grosvenor, 22, is the son of the Duke of Westminster.
The Grosvenor family friendship spans decades with the royal family. Hugh is the heir to a vast estate and a good friend who's been welcomed into the fold.
William's cousin, Zara Phillips, was the only royal godparent. She came with her rugby player husband, Mike Tyndall.
I think actually Zara was a really special choice, and I think that was it's a reflection of William's closeness to Zara, and also the fact that she and Kate get on very well. So I'm told that Zara was absolutely thrilled to be asked.
Kate's mother and father accompanied Pippa and brother James to the christening, surprisingly neither of whom were among the godparents.
Pippa wasn't asked to be a godparent. Again, a lot of expectation that alongside Harry she probably would be given that role, but actually she's just Auntie Pippa. She has a very hands-on role with George. Prince George spends far more time at the Middletons than I think any of us realise. But actually most of the time it's hanging out with Grandma and Grandpa, Mike and Carol, and also his aunt and uncle, Pippa and James.
For Carol, a former air hostess, it's a dream come true. The once ordinary Middleton family are now inextricably linked by marriage and bloodline to the Royal House of Windsor.
The Middletons are an easygoing, pleasant, middle-class family who have taken to being part of the wider royal family with great elan and aplomb. I mean, they're nice to look at. People seem to like them. They're doing the right kind of thing. They support Kate, and they seem to have adjusted to the enormous spotlight that has been shone on them. The fact that Mrs. Middleton is descended from a coal mining family, their whole family tree has been published at great length, and we know an awful lot about them. They have been described as social climbers. I don't think so. I think they've done their best to support their children. Kate and her sister and brother went to Marlborough, which is one of our top private schools. It costs a lot of money to send them there, but it turned out three perfect young people.
Kate had to overcome the doubts of the snobbier elements of William's circle, who expected him to marry an aristocratic girl rather than one from a middle-class background. It took a while for some to accept Kate.
Surprisingly, Kate mixed very well with William's tough friends. William has kept pretty much the same tight group of pals that he started to know when he was first away at school, Ludgrove, then Eton, and then at university. I think initially there was a bit of snobbery. We heard a few years ago that they thought she was a bit ordinary, a bit too middle class, but they get on well. I mean, she likes his friends like her. They all seem to get along really well.
In June 2014, Kate visited the restored Bletchley Park, where the famous wartime Enigma code was cracked. Her grandmother, Valerie Glassborough, worked there during World War II. She married Mike's father, Peter Middleton, in 1946.
The Middleton family connection with Bletchley is that Kate's grandmother was a code breaker, and a few months back Kate decided that she wanted to go to Bletchley Park and actually see the work that her grandmother had done, speak to some of the people that worked there, and it was quite lovely really that she got to uncover a little bit of her past.
The young princes grew up in divided homes with separated parents.
William's own memory of growing up was in a broken home. He had two parents, of course, but they didn't live together for the latter part of his teenage years, and it wasn't a happy home life. He found in the Middletons what a solid home life could be like, and he adored it. I mean, he used to go around there on a Sunday, and they'd serve a supper on trays. They'd be watching TV, they'd be chatting, playing games. He loved all that.
In 2012, the Middletons left their former home in Bucklebury, near Reading.
They moved from a very nice, fairly modern, detached house in a very pleasant Berkshire village to a much larger, grander manor house on the outskirts of the village. We don't know precisely how much it cost, but the rumour is that William helped subsidise the purchase of it, because the house has had a lot of modifications done to make it safe and secure for a member of the royal family and his family to stay there. And that all costs money. William, of course, has the money he inherited from his mother, which he was able to draw on once he turned 25. So he had the cash. So the rumour is he put in some money.
When Prince George Alexander Louis of Cambridge was christened 3 months after his birth, the public were out in force celebrating the occasion. A cavalcade of cars brought godparents and royal guests to the ceremony at the Chapel Royal St James's Palace. Thanks to baby George's place in the line of succession, this was an event that required marching guardsmen. And it required the presence of a great-grandmother who happens to be the Queen. She and Prince Philip were greeted by the Archbishop of Canterbury, Justin Welby, and the Bishop of London, Richard Charters. Grandfather Charles and his wife Camilla, the Duchess of Cornwall, came too, as did the baby's uncle, Prince Harry. It was the first time the Queen had publicly greeted her 3 heirs in line, Charles, William and George. It was a happy day for all the family. It was also an historic occasion, the first time in over 100 years that a reigning monarch has been pictured with 3 male heirs to the throne. William was christened on August the 4th, 1982. It was the Queen Mother's 82nd birthday. The Queen looked delighted, seemingly unaware that new mother Diana was feeling excluded and unwell. Wearing a cream suit by Sarah Burton, Kate looked confident and happy on George's big day. His lace christening gown was an exact replica of the one made for Queen Victoria's children. Another valued guest at the christening was William and Harry's former nanny, Jessie Webb.
Jessie Webb was appointed by the couple at the end of the summer. It was very interesting. William and Kate didn't want a nanny in the first instance. They wanted to be hands-on parents. I think very much part of their dream to be normal and ordinary. And I think after 2 months of sleepless nights and a very hungry baby, because George cried a lot. He was a hungry baby. The Duchess said a couple of times when we were overseas in New Zealand that it was only when she started weaning him that she realised that he'd obviously been crying so much because he was hungry. And I think after a couple of months of sleepless nights, they realised that they needed more than just Carol. They needed a full-time nanny, and they wanted someone that was experienced. They wanted someone that they could trust, and William convinced Jessie Webb, who was his nanny many years ago, to come out of retirement. I think she was about 71 at the time, and come and help them out at Kensington Palace. So she spent a few months as the couple moved into their new home at Kensington Palace, really getting George into a routine, getting him down and sleeping through the night. And really, Jessie Webb was wonderful.
In 1991, aged 8, William was taken to Cardiff on March the 1st, St David's Day, for his first official engagement. When Charles is king, he's expected to make William Prince of Wales. Diana prepared for his future.
Well, his mother, Diana, was always keen to instruct. And so she was able to pass on this to William and say, look, William, it's going to be difficult. The press are going to be on you. Ignore them. Don't look at them. Always smile. Even if you feel unhappy, you don't want to do it. It's your job. You've got to do it. You can't say, I don't want to do this today. This is your job. And with that sort of encouragement and the love that he had for his mother, he was a success.
The boys first went to Wetherby, a day prep school near their home in London.
A short drive from Kensington Palace. Gets in the car, and his mother says, right, William, when we get out of the school, there are going to be lots of photographers. And he said in a sort of just William voice, I don't like photographers, right? Well, Diana said, well, you better get used to it because this is going to be with you for the rest of your life. Note how true a statement was that.
In 1991, Charles and Diana took William and Harry to church in Toronto during a tour of Canada. Diana taught them by her example.
She was much better with people, the common folk, if you like. She related to people on the street. The man on the street, she related to them. She had this dialogue. Her communication was such that she'd identify, she'd pick up something of somebody in the street. It might be a woman's coat or a man's pair of shoes, and she would say, I like those shoes. Or, I love that. Where do you get that jacket from? Was it from John Lewis? And people would sort of think, well, yeah, and off they go, they start talking.
The Queen's Scottish retreat, Balmoral Castle, is a Highland estate of 50,000 acres. There are managed herds of deer, Highland cattle and ponies. The Queen's great-grandfather, King Edward VII, encouraged blood sports there, beginning a long tradition of shooting, fishing and stalking. Already wealthy after Princess Diana's death, William will inherit Balmoral and the other royal estates when he is king.
William is rich because he inherited that large sum of money, half of the 17 million that Diana got in her divorce settlement, aged 25. So he's got that. There was also some money that his father has passed over to him. He didn't, however, inherit any money from the Queen Mother, who passed on a lot of her money to her great-grandchildren, because the view is that William will one day have, first of all, the Duchy of Cornwall, which sustains his father as Prince of Wales, and then obviously as king he'll have the keys to the kingdom and have as much money as he wants. I mean, clearly he is going to be a very wealthy young man, but at the moment he's certainly very comfortable.
After baby George's birth, William and Kate moved into Princess Margaret's old apartment in Kensington Palace, very near William and Harry's childhood home, with all its memories.
Or William will think exactly, about the experiences and lifestyle that he had at Kensington Palace with his mother and his father. And why would they not want to repeat that? He had a fantastic time there, to such an extent that he's actually gone back to his aunt's, Margot's old apartment. And so he's back at Kensington Palace. And he'll have vivid memories of the childhood there. And he'll want to pass on those memories and all the skills that he was taught by his mother and his father, and all the fun that he had at Wetherby and all the surrounding areas of Kensington Palace, pass on to his children.
Apartment 1A Kensington Palace will be their London base until William becomes king.
William's got very fond memories of Kensington Palace. That courtyard is where he first learned to ride a bike. It's where he spent so many special times with his mother.
At first, the couple lived in Nottingham Cottage, now Prince Harry's home, while a complete refurbishment of their apartment took place.
It's just undergone a huge and lengthy and very costly £4.5 million refurbishment. But finally, the Cambridges have their perfect family home. It's 3 stories. Most of the top story is the nursery with the nanny's accommodation. There's some wonderful entertaining space, and I think we'll see more official engagements held at Kensington Palace.
Anmer Hall on the Royal Sandringham Estate in Norfolk is now William and Kate's country home.
Anmer Hall was a gift to Prince William for his 30th birthday from the Queen, and it's a bolt hole, a very impressive bolt hole. It's a Georgian manor house which has also undergone a refurbishment, this time paid for by the couple rather than the taxpayer, because this is their private home. This is where they will retreat for weekends, and actually where they'll spend, I would imagine, much of the next couple of years, because Prince William has taken on a new job as an air ambulance pilot. He's going to be based in Norfolk, and the family will, I think, actually spend most of their time at Anmer Hall over the next couple of years.
In 2012, the Queen's Diamond Jubilee year, the couple made a tour of Malaysia and the Solomon Islands, all part of the Commonwealth. At a reception in Singapore, Kate delighted her hosts by wearing a dress by local-born designer Prabal Gurung. Then the couple was shown an orchid specially bred to mark their visit. They were touched by their host's kindness. They moved on to the Solomon Islands. Royal experts were impressed by their teamwork on their tours.
Watching William and Kate on these early royal tours abroad, and instantly you're sort of thrown back 30 years to when Charles and Diana did it. But sadly, rapidly, it became obvious in the marriage between Charles and Diana that things weren't happy. They weren't happy, and they did things separately. So you would have Charles and Diana walking down separate sides of the same street. Everybody always wanted to see Diana. She got all the attention. She got the limelight and the cameras. William and Kate, they're doing it together. They're doing it side by side. He's been immense at her side because he was worried that she would be overwhelmed by all the attention. But unlike his father, he's not jealous because the limelight's shining on his wife. He's proud, and he's happy for her, and he's there to support her.
Prince George will soon be joined by a baby brother or sister. After the failure of his parents' marriage, William's is a notable success.
Undoubtedly, this marriage has been good for the British monarchy, it's been good for the Commonwealth and all of its realms, and I think it's really given us something to look forward to. William and Kate and George are a projection of the future and the promise of the monarchy and what it holds for all of us to look forward to, and I think that's very special.
Every June, the Queen's official birthday is celebrated with Trooping the Colour. She is 88 and Prince Philip 93. As they age further, their pace of work programme may have to be reduced. Clearly, some of their royal duties and responsibilities will have to be delegated to younger members of the family in the years ahead. Prince Harry, Kate and Camilla, Duchess of Cornwall, understand this well. The burden will fall on Charles, then on William. Reshaping the monarchy will be their biggest challenge.
The monarchy has survived for 1,000 years simply by adapting and changing and reflecting the changing times. It will have to do so again. We're a much more meritocratic society in Britain today. So I think what will happen, we will have a smaller monarchy which will seem more relevant to the times we live in, a monarchy which will concentrate on the monarch and her immediate family.
Kate is the sister Harry never had. The warmth between William, Kate and Harry is evident. They have all proved themselves good royal representatives.
I think the Queen knew that William was going to be a successful young man. Her reservations were whether they'd work together as a team, and I think she's been immensely buoyed by the fact that they're clearly a great team, and they do it very well together. It's taken a lot of weight off her mind because she's, in her late 80s. She no longer has the physical stamina to do what she had to do, and William and Kate, and to a degree Harry, have had to step forward and take on many of her duties.
This summer they represented the Queen at the Tower of London's ceramic poppy field, remembering the First World War. As royal ambassadors, William and Kate encourage diplomacy and commerce. They generate goodwill and help to preserve the monarchy in the Commonwealth. And they raise the profile of charities. Kate is a fully fledged royal and William is a polished performer.
Thank you for the warmth and generosity that has been shown to us during our visit.
The future looks secure. William, the child of a broken home, has a wife whose role model is her own parents' long and happy marriage and their secure family life. One day, William and Kate will become king and queen and take on all the burdens of the throne. But for now, they can just enjoy the best of family and royal life, knowing that Charles and Camilla will face those roles and responsibilities long before them.